School is a second home. I always say great classrooms or great schools are places that teachers will know what's happening in the house, even before the parents come and say. A good school is where there is certain trust and the child knows if I have a problem, if I can't go to my dad or mom for some reason.
There's someone I can go to. In a society where the number of loving adults in a child's life has gone down as we move to nuclear families, as we shift cities, school can be a place where a child can find a loving adult.
Absolutely. Why a lot of our students graduate out of school, not just in India, but around the world, academically proficient, but
Worldly poor.
Worldly poor. You have corporates complaining that these guys
Don't know have real life
skills. I don't think the culprit is university. 15 years you have not built foundational skills of deep thinking, deep writing, reading, communicating intelligently, synthesizing, integrating different disciplines. How are you going to teach them in 4 years of college?
There are so many schools today which say they are experiential. So can you share what is not experiential learning?
Doing a small project is not experiential. Some people say, okay, if I do a summer project or a winter project, isn't that experiential? Experiential learning curriculum is long-term project where children work on a problem over a long period of time. Thing I build, I get feedback, I break it down and build it from scratch again based on the feedback. It should address a real problem in the community. It can't be a project on the Amazon River or Nile or Roman history. It has to be a topic which children deeply care about.
Teach about medieval and Europe, but do not talk about Shivaji and forts.
Yes.
They will not take the child to a hike one of these forts. It has to be rooted in where the child is. If I am a parent of a homeschooler or I am a parent of a child who goes to a regular school, hearing this can make me feel scared. You know that my child is losing out.
It doesn't matter whether you go to a school which is experiential learning or not. The least you could do as a parent is one, figure out in a child's life what does the child care about. Probably put a structure around to help the child solve the problem that she cares about. Let's say the child is interested in pets. Let's say get the child to talk to some veterinarians, get the child to visit some pet shelters, get the child to design a product to make the lives of the pets or stray dogs better off. Every parent, irrespective of where the child is, we should create meaningful projects for the child to solve.
Find a long-term project, which anyways is your first definition of an experiential learning. Experiential schools maybe take more fees and do it. Every school can still incorporate it irrespective of fee structure, or you can do it with your child at home.
Absolutely. Do what is right. Help children do projects.
I'm talking today to Vishnu Karthik. Vishnu, very happy to have you here. You know, Vishnu is an interesting person, and I'll tell you why. He's an Harvard alumnus, he's been a management consultant. The reason this makes him interesting is because after that, he started 5 different schools, he's on to his 6th now. Is that right?
Right.
Those 5 schools include the Heritage School, the Heritage Experiential School, and now Vasant Valley, Gurgaon. The reason this is interesting is that most of the absolutely fascinating people I meet in education actually come from non-education wala background. Vishnu has spent years studying how children and adolescents learn and how stress, the environment around them leads to how their brains develop, how their judgment, regulation, all of it over time grows, changes, how they adapt. That he has done every job in a school, which include the grade 9 economics teacher, trekking instructor, head of school, and then the CEO of the school. And what I found very interesting along with this is that in all of this, you also found time to do 14 days of journey in a cargo ship across the Arabian Sea. And then also wrote something called Seeking.
That's right, yes.
About it. Is it a book?
It is a book, yes.
It's a book.
It was written about 15 years back.
But tell me, why did you do this journey on a cargo ship across the Arabian Sea?
Actually, I wanted to be a monk in my life. I wanted to go to the Himalayas and do some seeking.
What age were you when you decided that I want to be a monk?
Around 1920.
Around 1920, okay.
Yeah. So I've spent some time in the mountain a lot in those days. And for me, adventure was a way of seeking your own self, moving closer to the truth. And part of the journey was also is going into the ocean. And there's another monk from Chinmaya Mission who does these solo trips. And cargo ships are interesting because these are large containers and you could spend weeks and weeks without meeting a single soul. Even they're all highly automated floating vessels.
How many people on a ship like this?
I think there probably would have been 18 to 20 people working. And a lot of them are there in the hull, in the engine room, etc. And ships are fascinating because, after the first night of the journey, when you wake up, there is no land around. And suddenly it hits you that you are such a small speck in this cosmos. And especially the nights, you are able to see the Milky Way the way you can in the middle of the ocean. And it gets better and better.
Did it have an impact on you? Because you decided not to become a monk after that.
No, I decided to be an educator after that, even better.
Okay.
These small experiences, and I always feel when you want to pivot your career, it's not one drastic step. Figuring out what you want to do in life, you've got to be deliberate about the process of figuring out. And this is one of the things which I often used to do to get off from the civilization. And it became more clear that my strengths are not in being a monk. My strength is in the classroom, helping individuals realize their potential. In many ways, I still feel I'm a monk. I don't know if you can make out my beard.
But we have similar yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I saw you, I thought you're also a monk.
A monk recognizes a monk.
Yes. That's one of the reasons I feel education is a great sector to be in. For any seeker, you need an excuse to evolve. And children are the best excuse you can get to evolve.
That I think is a beautiful line. Children are a great excuse to evolve.
So education is, in that sense, it's still in the pursuit of truth. I'm still a monk. And hopefully it'll
continue to be one.
Yes.
Very cool. Very cool. Very happy to hear this. And the schools you have started have been across different boards. IB to ab aaya hai. Pehle CBSE tha. Was there ICSE all in between? ICSE?
No, we didn't have a school in Bombay, so no ICSE. But had we had a school in Bombay, it would have been
ICSE. Why is that, by the way? Why ICSE is more here in Delhi mein CBSE?
It's a very unpopular opinion I have, but that's the truth.
Please tell me.
I think the choice of board is largely determined by the market dynamics. It's got nothing to do with the child's learning or education. Of course, it has some impact in your grade 11 and 12. Like for Bombay and Calcutta, I think ICSE is far more understandable to a parent. These are great shortcuts, heuristics parents have to understand, ICSE should be better off in languages. Actually, completely not true. There are better variables on language learning than ICSE would or a CBSE would. There is a certain viewpoint Delhi has, largely also because CBSE is headquartered in Delhi and it has a large influence there. Down south, for example, it used to be state board. But now CBSE is gaining a lot more popularity. The Vasant Valley School, which we are opening in Gurgaon, we just had an event. Parents asked what curriculum board. I said, if you want to join a CBSE school, please don't join another CBSE school. We are a Vasant Valley School. We offer a certain combination, what serves it. There are pedagogical viewpoints we have. But board affiliation is not the reason you should be joining my school.
But you have been a big believer in experiential education. All these 20 years that you've done it. So I have actually 3 questions for you. First of all is counter, which is that there are so many schools today which say they are experiential. Like every second school will say they are Montessori, but very few real Montessori schools. Similarly, a lot of schools will say, we are experiential. So can you share what is not experiential learning? The second is, what do you think are the principles of experiential learning, given that you've done over 20 years? The third is, can you show how you have seen experiential learning happening in a primary, middle or senior school? Like, how does it look like for a parent to identify, is my child going to the right school or not?
Yeah.
These are 3 questions that are top of mind and we can, then go from there.
17 years back when I got into this, when we set up the heritage schools, the word experiential learning was not popular at all. In those days, if you recollect, child-centric was more popular. Right? Holistic learning was more popular. Experiential learning was in the fringes. In fact, the word experiential learning, when no school used it. It used to do real life, project-based. It was not the common vocabulary you will find in a website. The root of heritage school, experiential learning actually comes from Mahatma Gandhi's Nai Thali. In fact, there's a poem he's written on the power of the hand.
On the power of the?
Hand.
Hand.
In fact, he says, if I have to write on education, I'll probably write about how the hand is the most important thing for you to learn. But there's a lot of Indic books like Divya Swapan. Is a Gujarati book. For some reason,
Divya Swapan I've read. It's a wonderful book.
A lot of it.
Absolutely.
It's nothing but the teacher trying to get real life into the classroom.
Even Shantiniketan.
Shantiniketan, for the matter. There's a lot of work around the outdoors. Rishi Valley, Krishnamurti's book, which comes from India. His own philosophy is children have to observe what happens in their life. And life is education. And a lot of people don't realize Steiner, the Waldorf schools, and Rishi Valley, Krishnamurti are contemporaries. Steiner was deeply influenced by Krishnamurti's work before we started as an experiment in Germany. It's also very interesting how a lot of the progressive education philosophies Reggio Emilia Steiner, actually come from the Axis powers of World War II, which is Germany and Italy. And a lot of it also comes from the Indic views. Of course, the Americans standardize a lot of these things.
They're great at doing
it. They're great at doing it. I think they look at it systemically. And there is an entire network called the Experiential Learning School Network, a group of 600 schools, where they build a pedagogical framework around real life. To answer your question, what makes an experiential learning? Experiential learning, right? One, doing a small project is not experiential. Some people say, okay, if I do a summer project or a winter project, isn't that experiential? Can I bring real life into my classroom with the purpose of certain learning objectives? The experiential learning curriculum is long-term project where children work on a problem over a long period of time that builds grit, resilience, that builds the process of prototyping, that I do something, I build, I get feedback, I break it down and build it from scratch again based on the feedback and that thing. It should address a real problem in the community. It can't be a project on the Amazon River or a Nile or in your Roman history. It has to be a topic which children deeply care about. That project should not be dictated by a teacher or a curriculum. The project should be dictated by what gives meaning to a child. Great learning happens when there is agency. Why do we once hated history? Suddenly after you get into the workforce, you're so obsessed with history because we suddenly see meaning in history. So meaning is so important. So that's the second characteristic of experiential learning curriculum.
I was talking to a parent whose child goes to IGCSE school, and in their school they teach about medieval and Europe, but do not talk about Shivaji and forts.
Yes.
They will not take the child to a hike one of these forts. And I think this is what you are saying.
Absolutely.
That it has to be rooted in where the child is, and has to have some meaning for the child.
Yes. In fact, I often say all great projects should be rooted in the local community. So there's so much of opportunities every city provides. Could we use it and build relevance in your child's life to build it? The third characteristic of experiential learning is real assessments. Assessment should reflect real life. One of the problems with many schools which say they do experiential learning is that they give you a project. At the end of it, the teacher will evaluate and put it in a shelf, and you get a 1-pager or something, a 5 on 10 or a 4-star on 5. But real evaluation is feedback. The teacher has to sit with you, or a real expert has to sit with you to give you feedback. They give you a simple rubric. Okay, these are the 6 competencies you should have done well. At what level in 4 of these and 2 you need to improve. So that's real assessment. The project you do should be consumed by somebody in the community to solve.
It has to be useful.
It has to be useful.
I tell parents that parents come home from work or in the evening bring the child up, then they want the child to, let's say, see TV so that they can cook food, and then maybe find 15 minutes to play board game with the child.
Yes.
That is not required.
Yeah.
Switch off the TV, involve the child in making the food. That is your playtime.
That's right.
You don't need to play board games. Child playing with you together, making the food is much more useful and playful than anything else.
You actually put it very well. It's like saying, I'll do this subject through the boring lectures and textbooks, etc. But I'll find some time to do a project at the end. That's what many traditional schools have moved towards experiential. But to your point, why would you do that? You could actually use the projects as your mainstream pedagogical strategy. Use your classroom time in the timetable to do projects like these. It should have a presentation. It should have a consumption by a real audience. And that user should give feedback standards. So that is experiential. What is not experiential learning? Clearly giving projects at the summer vacation is not. Clearly asking them to go on a hike in a mountain and coming back, that's not. It's better than doing nothing, but doesn't mean you have understood forts by going on a hike and coming. You'd probably do it much better if you actually had a 3-month-long thing. You invite archaeologists to the classroom. You do a research of the structure of a fort. You probably do some deep reading on some of the history of forts, right? Then you add on with a trip to the fort. And then your output also maybe a guidebook to tourists to a particular fort. Imagine the child is now driven that, okay, I have to produce a guidebook. Now that's the end product. The child knows there is an audience for it. You work backwards to solve for that. And then you are curious. I'll ask you the right question if you're an archaeologist, okay? What are the different, when is it made? Is it an important fact? Is it true or not? Then you realize, okay, for this, I need to develop the skill to know which is truth which is propaganda. Then I
So
start going
So I
to
have two things there. One is I'm saying, let's look at the two extremes. I'm saying you read about the European war sitting in Mumbai. Better than that is you read about a Shivaji's fort sitting in Mumbai. Okay. Now at this end is producing a guidebook for a fort which maybe in partnership with the government is given at the entry of the fort to everybody who climbs the fort, right? And that needs for the child to do a lot of things.
habits of a historian, as you recall. What are the habits a historian would have to do primary research?
To prove primary research is like absolutely right. So yeah, and in between now from here where there's a fort of Shivaji, one could say, okay, we will take you for one trip and that is about it. Somebody could say, oh, you have to make a sketch of the fort. So there is a continuum in which experiential education lies, starting from 0 to, let's say, 100, if we define this as 100. Now, my one question is, one problem that I think schools face, that parents also face, teachers also face. One, because you're not teaching a child 101. 101 is anyway difficult, child is not interested in doing it. You need a group of kids for them to be excited. How do you get, when you take a class of 20, and let's say this is 1:20, okay? I see again and again, out of 20, 4 kids are very interested in the project, 4 kids are not interested at all, and 12 are a little bit interested, based on cajoling by the teacher or the parent. Is this a realistic scenario?
Actually, no.
Okay. So tell me.
It depends on. Great question. One of the advantages of doing in project-based learning is that there is no one product you create. You are creating multiple products. So a good project would not only have, create guidebook. It could also be create a skit. It could also be write a paper. It could also be create an
now
animation.
What you're saying is 20 kids will divide it on different tasks.
So
somebody who's interested more in theatre will take on the skit, when interested writing is taking on, So the guidebook was not 100, guidebook was only 80. 100 is based on a project. Everybody is involved as a community and does things together, brings different parts together.
There are multiple ways to express understanding, right? The process also, not all kids would like primary research. Not all kids, in fact, also like...
This is the question I was posing, which is that out of 24 could write like primary research, the rest don't want to do it.
So the job of the teacher is to figure out, and that's why I said meaning, right? To begin with, one of the fundamental tenets of experiential learning is a child should feel connected to the cause. That happens only when the child feels, okay, I am really interested in creating an animation out of the food. I'm really interested in creating an audiobook rather than... So there are multiple ways in which children want to express their understanding. Even the project execution. Some kids get excited to climb the fort. Some kids don't want to climb it. They want to sit with the audience and interview. You do that also. You're
saying 20 kids were taken to climb the fort. Everybody does not need to climb the fort.
No, and you will have to. No, they will have to. But they will not give their best. There are core tenets. Of course, one of the foundational capacities you want children to learn is, please put up with nonsense you don't like. Not all learning is...
Please put up with nonsense you do not like, the core tenet.
Yes. It's a core tenet, yeah. Because the idea that learning has to be joyful is actually... has done more damage to education than not. Any learning, any evolution is...
Learning is hard.
Learning
Just that you do it willfully. You do hard things willfully. Like you went on the 14-day trip in the Arabian Sea, it's not easy.
Even your mountain treks, right? I'm sure any moment of your mountain trek, there are days you feel, what am I doing here? I would have been sitting in a cafe.
100%. I'm saying, why am I on this snow?
Why are you on this snow? That's how learning should be. Because any evolution, any growth has to have pain in it. So all kids have to climb the fort. But just that I don't expect every kid to be great at climbing the fort. Some kids are excited. But because the child at the beginning of the project sees, there are opportunities, and each child will feel at least 2 connections of the 8 things I'm doing, and there are 2 things which I'm going to like. They will indulge over the 4-month-long project. But that's the craft of a good school. The school will figure out what are the 8 or 9 things the children can produce, which has a real audience to consume. And that's the beauty of expedition learning, I have seen even children who have no interest in academics, or they can't sit in a place, they don't have any tolerance for any, boring stuff, will do their best because they know that they can't let down 5 other kids of their class. You will be surprised how fast children assume maturity because they have a task to finish. One of the last projects I did, he set up a senior campus. And this probably answers your third part of the question. Give me examples. This is 2020 and 2021, during COVID. So we are setting up 240,000 square feet of space for the IB children. Currently, IB children are based in a CBSE campus. It became so popular, we said, let's build a 240,000 square feet of new building ground up. You got a French architect to do it. It's a teachable moment. How many of us can see a building come up
100%.
from ground 5 floors up? I then called the middle school head and said, look, imagine how much of teachable moments you're going to have. Migration, changing landscape of a community, migrant laborers coming in. So she was like very quick. She got together a bunch of 6-7 teachers. We spent about 3 days. I still remember Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We took up grade 6 learning standards. You mapped in a wall. By Saturday, we had a 4-page brief, 4 subjects that include design, that include mathematics, that include social sciences, French and Hindi. And the pedagogy was interviewing the farmer family who sold it, migrant laborers who moved in, workshop with the architect, workshop with the board. How did you think about it? Then you work with the architect to create learning spaces which will help high school students. And what is the output? They had a coffee table book produced which outlined, and the title of the coffee table book was Humanizing the Building Structure. And that's the overarching problem statement. How do I make a building relate to as a human being to me as a resident? And this building can be cold, right? So the kids worked in the Makerspace Lab, built products with other school kids can work. And they all cared about it. Why? It is their building. So it ran for 2 years, grade 6 and grade 7. We had a coffee table book published. They developed about 6 products that could be used, including decibel level monitors, like in spaces that you want quiet zone. They are collaborative spaces.
So let me ask you this. Say, for example, this is a middle grade project. So in 6th and 7th, right? Now I'm saying when I went to school, 6th mein thoda physics hota tha, thoda maths hota tha, some chemistry. I had to learn all of that. What about physics, chemistry for these children?
So sciences are included. Like from the architecture, we had ratios, we had, structures, there's an entire curriculum which is pulled in. But to your point, math is the most difficult to integrate in expeditions around the world. In fact, there's a guy called Ron Howard, he comes every year. He only does a math-focused expedition. Like he takes them to a Himalayan tomb and he does because math is very difficult to integrate into a regular project. It's easy in grade 4, 5, 6.
But after that, math becomes virtual.
Virtual, abstract ho jata hai. So it's very difficult to integrate a project. We do those through modules.
There's a maths module that everybody has to take.
Yeah. And that's so point being, there are concepts which you will not be able to cover through an expedition.
So there's a certain base that every child has to make.
Yes.
Right? Which in general, experiential learning does not lend itself to.
Yes.
In some ways.
Yes. Yeah.
But those concepts are useful to life.
Yes. The other way to do this, it depends on the maturity of the school also. For a new school, they'll see the content existing. They will do most of it in modules and they'll get a new project integrated. But over time, the school team also matures and say, okay, I have these large modules. I'll put the content around the module.
That I'm a parent of a child who goes to a school, 3 kilometers away. I live in Agra. I do not have a school like this around me. What would be your advice to me?
At some stage, I would feel all parents should think about homeschooling. It doesn't matter whether you go to a school which is experiential learning or not. The least you could do as a parent is one, figure out in a child's life, what does the child care about? There should be something the child should care about. Second, as a parent, I would encourage a child or probably put a structure around to help the child solve the problem that she cares about. I think that's very important, right? If let's say, for example, let's say the child is interested in pets. Could you create a long-term project which has components of primary research, components of secondary research, components of some field work, components of working with real professionals? All projects should have real professionals coming and working with you, not just the teacher. Could you help the child complete this project? Let's say, get the child to talk to some veterinarians, get the child to visit some pet shelters, get the child to design a product to make the lives of the pets or stray dogs better off. Idea is, every parent, irrespective of where the school is, where the child is, we should create meaningful projects for the child to solve over the long. It's the best way to build resilient grit. And I think as parents, we all agree children should have resilient grit. But resilient grit can't be taught. It has to be learned.
It's a muscle. It needs to be built.
Muscle. How do you build that muscle? The best gym to build grit and resilience is to get kids to work on long-term projects. That you got to go to the local pet shelter every Saturday, come watch me, and you work around the solution.
I would actually say what you're saying is find a long-term project, which anyways is your first definition of an experiential learning.
Yes.
Experiential schools maybe take more fees and do it. Every school can still incorporate it irrespective of fee structure, or you can do it with your child at home.
Absolutely. Get children to build products.
Hmm.
Could be a research report, podcast, could be a video, could be
You know,
a
I find that line a little scary, and I want to qualify that for
Yes.
parents.
Get
Children to build projects means कि ना आप डंडा मारो और उनसे बनवाओ.
नहीं.
You know, I think because there's a very important part in what you said, which is that the child should find some meaning in it. Far too many people are every day going for jobs they don't like, for offices they don't like. You know, and it will be too late in life before they understand that all of it had no meaning, you know, because it does not feel meaningful to them.
That's right.
And I wish every person had the courage to pursue what they find meaning in.
That's right.
Right? Like you have done that in your life. Like I believe I have done that in my life. So I think this finding meaning, finding a project which has meaning for a child is something that I wish every parent, every school could do for them.
Absolutely. Great homeschooling parents. And I'm a big fan of homeschoolers. The only problem is not every parent is in a position to create a great homeschooling environment.
It takes a lot of effort.
It also takes a tribe. You need to find, just not about you, it's also about finding 20 such parents to do a good homeschooling community. But what do great homeschooling communities do? They essentially get children to discover a cause they are happy with, they find meaning, and you support the child to pursue that. Learning becomes incidental in the service of that project. Like civilizations, right? Figuring out what makes a civilization is a far more important question than understanding any civilization.
I think there's something that every parent should understand. Like we should understand that the idea of studying Roman civilization is not about understanding about Romans. Understanding civilization is a basic premise of how people come together.
So this example of fort, which I'm going back to, which was very relevant and a very easily understandable example. Idea of studying fort is not to understand Shivaji fort. You understand what makes a fort. Why a fort? I mean, one would understand, why do you have to put a fort at the top of the mountain? I mean, you could pretty much build a fort. Do you even need forts? But the forts is not common across the country. It's only in certain terrains forts are relevant. You go down, so there is no forts. I mean, they had forts, but they're not as legendary as or central for the statecraft. So where does forts work? Educators and parents have to understand the purpose of learning about these things is not about the fort. It's about building higher order thinking skills. And you use forts as an example or an excuse to get deeper into it.
No, in some ways, tomorrow you want your child to become an entrepreneur, you want a product market fit, right? The entrepreneur has to be able to launch a product which people buy. Fort is a product which was useful to people of those times.
For any great business, you need to have a moat. Moat is indestructible competitive advantage you have. How do you understand that? I think understanding forts is an inherent part of understanding how do you create a moat.
So we've gone through the example of the fort and how experiential project can look for a middle schooler. Then for a high schooler, there was this project which you shared, which is about the building and designing everything that they actually are going to use 18 months down the line, right? So how does a project for a primary school classroom look like?
So for primary, we just replicate. They're still young. They're still understanding the world, their life, including things
I am still understanding the world.
Absolutely. But they're both like seasons. There's the phenomenon of food.
They're starting to understand the world,
Yeah, right. So primary is far, and primary does not have the tyranny of content.
Explain that more, tyranny of content.
One of the biggest resistance to education reform, why a lot of our students graduate out of school, not just in India, around the world, academically proficient, but
worldly poor.
Like you have corporates complaining that these guys
don't have real life
skills. And often they put the blame on universities. But my argument is that that's too late. I don't think the culprit is universities. If you 15 years you have not built foundational skills of deep thinking, deep writing, reading, communicating intelligently, getting that synthesizing, right, integrating different disciplines, how are you going to teach them in 4 years of college? That's not going to happen. And the biggest resistance is content. It is so content heavy. There is simply no time. One of the problems, a lot of schools will agree to do project-based learning. But the
parent will ask, "Baki ka syllabus kaise cover hoga? How will we cover all the syllabus?"
But I think parent asking is easy to manage.
The school believing that all the syllabus does not need to be covered.
I feel parents are not the reason. Because a good institution is supposed to educate parents. I'm not here to serve parents.
I think this is very difficult for a school owner or principal to understand, because at the end of the day, it becomes a business where the parent is a customer.
I would disagree.
Like, I wouldn't want it to be like this.
Yes. I would
Like, for most schools, they say managing children is easy, managing parents is difficult. So the amount of effort it goes to try to help a parent understand that coverage is not important, depth is important, experiential learning is important, is a lot.
This is a provocation to all school owners, school heads.
Hmm.
And there are enough case studies around it.
Hmm.
I've actually never seen an experiential learning school fail.
Hmm.
The reverse has happened. Great institutions like great products, they can't stand for everybody. They stand if they're true to their mission.
Hmm.
If a school says, this is my philosophy, and you pursue relentlessly towards a philosophy, parents will come.
So let me then say this. What is required are more people who believe, who come out of the tyranny of content and believe experiential learning is what it is. It does not matter. We do not need to cover Greek, UK, ABCD, XYZ. One done well enough, the child will extrapolate and learn then whatever the child wants to learn. But for that, the examination system will also have to change.
You mentioned that we have set up schools across curriculum. That's a problem in CBSE largely.
Yes. How do you manage that?
On the CBSE also telling. My argument is this, that at least till grade 10, do what is right. Help children do projects. If you want to teach to the test, which is a compulsion in many, not just in India, in many Asian societies, Korea, China, Taiwan, for example. There's also cultural need to do a standardized testing, get into colleges, bureaucracy, etc. Shift gears in 11 and 12. And this is my philosophy. Heritage schools, and so is Vasant Valley Schools, for example. We don't have textbook, we don't have exams. But in 12th, they will ace the exams. In fact, my team and my track record has been, even in Heritage, you always will be in the top 3, 4. I don't know how it is now, but till the time I was there, you'll be in the top 3, 4 in the country. Not in CBSE, even in IB. I think 3 years back, the year when I moved on, we were in the top 28 in the world. We were top 2 in the country, 28 in the world. I think even this year, I think the results have been fantastic. So my own argument, even for Vasant Valley Schools, is that there is a requirement for university entrance examination. There is a requirement grade 12 exam, but treat it as a limited project. But let that not define.
Do not prepare, let not define the 10 years of a child's life.
14 years. 14 years, actually now it's 15 with NEP. Why would you ruin a child's learning process with this 15th year exam at the end? You get there, and there are ways to get you prepared in it. Since you asked this question, it's not that Heritage always produced great results. In fact, in 2013, 2014, almost 7-8 years after our existence, and our school is known as a happy school, kids came to love, they did projects, etc. But they never performed well in board exams.
Was it? Oh, that was the case earlier?
That was the case initially, because we actually went the way that examination is not important, meaningful learning is important. So we focus a lot on the engagement part, but you never prepared kids for 11th and 12th. To the point in 2012, 50% of a grade 10 batch left and joined other regular didactic schools. And we were shocked that was happening.
Everybody's happy, everybody's coming to school, and suddenly they have all left.
Yeah, that year school average, 12th school average was 74%, 78%. And you and I know in today's age and time, a 78% school average for a school in Gurgaon, it's abysmally low, right? We decided that let me step down from the board and get into heading the school. So my primary goal, how do I get these kids to do well in boarding schools? I mean, I couldn't tell this to parents why I came to that role. I took the entire batch of 120 kids. I personally led to Kedar Kanta. It's a 4,000 feet thing. Safe enough for kids to go, but tough enough for kids to feel they've done something big in their lives. We did a goal setting process. We put a coaching system in place. We made every kid hungry about doing well in board exams.
How do you do that?
We built relevance. We took them on a summit climb. It's a 6-day summit climb. Kids cribbed, but they're all excited. But when they climb, every kid climbed. We ensured that they set them out success also. After the summit climb, then we did a visioning exercise. What do you want to do in life? We did a 4-5 day work. And all of these kids, then we connected it to why is 12th important to do well in life? So even a kid who's thinking of getting 60, 70, 70, I'm going to try for a 90. The bigger trouble was teachers. When I went to high school teachers and we asked them to project for each kid, what do you think this kid is going to get in 12th, 24 months from now? This is the end of 10th, right? And they all give 70, 80, whatever, realistic, because they don't want to overcome it. Then I said, look, your kids have projected themselves. The average is coming to 91%. but you are projecting it is coming to 82%. Your kids are believing them more than you believe in them. They said, no, that's all. They're not realistic. We are realistic. Then we took the teachers for a 7-day retreat. But
First, you take the kids, then you take the
I've
teachers.
given a keynote on this. I took them on a offsite. We've put them through group tasks like jumping off the cliff, rope climbing, rappelling, etc. Where they asked them to set goals and they realized that they could
Do more
than this one. In fact, I have these pictures print in 10 feet by 10 feet as posters of them looking at the cliff with fear, because everybody now remembers as muscle memory that what they went through. And they made them prove that, look, your own goals are lower, but you achieved more. The funny part is whatever goal you achieve, you pretty much do better than that. So we work with the teachers also to aim higher. So they set up goal, okay, kids are saying 91, we will do 92. So the next 10 months, we didn't do test after test. We just worked on their hunger. Guess what the result was? 91%. That evening, NDT was in our campus. Because we're the only school in north of India, forget Delhi, which were in the top 3, 90% above. And our kids were in NDTV studios that evening, and teachers were aghast. Parents were surprised. We also work with there's something called Pygmalion effect. The Pygmalion effect is this: the children will rise up to the goals they think you have set for them.
Children will rise up to the goals they think you have set for them.
So if they think I am thinking that this kid will get 90, they will prove you right. But if they think I am thinking that the kid will get 70, they'll prove you right. Board exams generally, because you've spent 15 years in a school, you want to leave on a high. And I also feel board exams are irrelevant, but they are a very relevant proxy for a goal for a child, because most adolescents don't have goals in life. What's the meaning you can create in an adolescent life? Adolescent life it's a very difficult phase biologically, neurologically. There is a lot of hormones bursting. There's a lot of fear society provides. But for them, great proxy is do well in boards. At least nothing roots.
It gives you confidence.
It gives you confidence, gives you a purpose. And if a kid who gets 60 gets an 85, for life that kid sticks, Maya made for 85. But I've also seen kids who get a 90, who supposed to get a 90 but get a 85. For a life they think I'm not made for it. So it also creates a permanent capacity for increased hunger.
I like this line, permanent capacity for increased hunger.
Yeah, I have examples. There are kids, a guy called Karthik. He's one of those typical kids. Now he looks 6 foot tall, late bloomer possibly. But this kid was a short, obese, I think out of shape, low on this one. He never used to speak at all. He's a kind kid, but never spoke. He never crossed 50, 55. Mother used to come crying. Father never used to come for PTMs. But I was his coach. In our school, there's a system that every adolescent has one coach. So I used to manage about 6 or 7 kids. Always 40, 50s ever. Suddenly in boards, he got 83 or 84. I mean, not a great score.
But
for that kid, 40% about delta. But I always talk about delta. I show projections and say, look, you were at 50, you suddenly became 80.
This is an important point. I think the only journey we have is self-improvement, not comparison with others.
Your delta should be good. And board exams is a great way to build it. Projects are also a great way to build it. You get a real project and the kid did some extraordinary work the kid is proud of. And the hunger is increased. Then you don't have to do anything. Your job is done. Your job is to create capacity for hunger. They'll pursue it.
Our daughter been playing basketball for the last 4-5 years. One of our friends was doing an exercise. She said, let's find spirit animals of everybody. Okay. So what she does is she takes phone, says, okay, we will say 4 or 5 things about everybody. And a spirit animal, the phone will throw. Then my daughter turn comes, everybody says the word. Then she's going to finish it. My daughter says, oh, please add talented. So her friend sitting next to her says, why are you saying talented for yourself? Says, I'm going to play state level basketball. What are you talking about? Put talented. So it is very fascinating for me to see the inner voice of my child.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's our job, right? As adults, create experiences, opportunities for them to. I always say great classrooms or great schools are places that teachers will know what's happening in the house. Even before the parents come and say. Like when I was ahead of school, I would know, my teachers would know whether the father has lost his job. There is marital
dispute,
conflicts, dispute. It's just conversations. I think good school is where there is certain trust and the child knows. If I have a problem, if I can't go to my dad or mom for some reason, and there are faces.
There's someone I can go to.
There is somebody in the school. School is a second home for them in it. And that's the fundamental.
I think that is also a good way to look at the role of schools. In a society where the number of loving adults in a child's life has gone down as we move to nuclear families, as we shift cities.
Absolutely.
School can be a place where a child can find a loving adult,
Absolutely.
an adult who cares.
Absolutely. One reason why I love being in schools, because you work with extraordinary human beings who do wonders to children. Like I've had teachers who are considered more safer than their homes a lot of times. I've had teachers who actually have literally adopted the child, not legally, but
but they are the ones who are taking care of child.
Cancer. There's one kid whose mother was battling cancer. Father had passed away some years back, and the mother passed away in grade 12 in a very difficult year. But the college counselor was also the psychology teacher. She literally took care of that kid.
You know, these are teachers I feel like bowing down to.
Absolutely.
The incredible empathy this takes to include another human being as part of your life. It's just crazy.
Crazy. You know, you asked about how did these kids do well from a 50 to 80, 90. Invariably, you know what they'll answer? In the farewell, invariably, the kids say the reason the kid wanted to get a 90 is, oh, I don't want to let down Vishnu sir. I don't want to let down Banerjee sir. I don't want to let down Chandanama because they have faith in me. I can't not get less than. So a lot of times kids rise up because the teacher had faith and the kid loves the teacher so much. I don't want to let that teacher.
I'm again going back to the same thing. And I think you know what I'm going to ask you is I understand that if a child is at 40, 50 and the child doing well because somebody believed in me, somebody saw me as more than who I am and believed I can do more. I find that to be beautiful. But when a child gets into the trap of saying, I will have to become an engineer because my father wants me to become an engineer and I love my father. That I think is a trap.
It is.
Right? But I'm saying when you said that the person said, I have been able to do this because otherwise I will disappoint Vishnu. That sounds like that kind of a trap.
So, great question. The distinction is this. At least in our schools, the expectation is take your life seriously. You do what you want with your life. I'm not expecting you to be an engineer or this one. Nobody. In fact, we are one of the few schools which actually gives you no traditional, in CBSE also, no traditional science, commerce. You can pick up any subject you want. Whatever you have chosen, you jolly well take it seriously and give your best. I also feel, you know, one is to say be an engineer because there are past loyalties. Whose waters are you carrying? You know, it's a very Ronald Heifetz talks about a lot of time we do things in life because we're carrying somebody else's past waters and you want to honor them. Honoring the past is not a bad thing as long as you are conscious about it and there is a certain alignment with who you are. But there is also a certain utility in having mentors in our lives and you rising up because you don't want to let down that mentor with respect to your values. I would like to argue, even our own trip to be a better parent, isn't there somewhere in my head that tomorrow when Mira grows up, I don't want her to feel that I have not been a affectionate parent. I would have made mistakes. I have my right to make mistakes as a parent. But I don't want I want my daughter to feel that I love her abundantly. Isn't that living up to an expectation?
The question I've thought about is that will tomorrow people judge me because of how my daughter's life goes? Yeah. And the answer that I've come to is I don't know what my daughter will do. She can do whatever she wants to do, whatever she feels like doing. What I am sure is my daughter and I will have an affectionate bond. That much I can guarantee. And it's not something that because I want that, I am doing something today. You know, मेरे पिताजी कहा करते थे कि once when I was preparing for IIT, I fell in love with a girl. My father said to me कि देखो ऐसा है तुम्हें मैं गाय के साथ भी बंद कर दूंगा ना रूम में 10 दिन तुम्हें उससे प्यार हो जाएगा अभी पढ़ाई कर लो. So whoever we spend time with, we will fall in love. I also agree that I think what has also happened is that our world has so many distractions that it is important to get the child on the right path, to motivate them to put effort by showing them what long-term looks like. Otherwise, short-term dopamine will take our child away. More so in today's world of screens and entertainment and advertisements and everything. So having, you can say, a mentor, a coach, a teacher, a parent who can help a child understand, especially a child who's become older, the difference between short-term and long-term. Get them to find meaning in a project. Like this is my wish for children, which is that every day a child wakes up and feels like doing something.
In fact, Angelina Duckworth, who wrote a lot about grit, she said this very beautifully. Somebody asked her this question that isn't persisting grit making kids do something
Great.
more than what they should be, is not hearing the child. Because if the child wants to drop out of, let's say, the swimming class, would you allow it and pay heed to it? The response is this: look, children have autonomy within structures. So if a child has chosen to do a swimming course, she has autonomy to choose. But once she's chosen, there is no autonomy to drop out. You stay with it. And once you complete it, let's say you've signed up for a 21, she gives an example of a 21-day program. Once the end of 21 day, that's when the child has a choice. But till then, it's a job of the adult to help children persist.
I think when you're learning something, there is a hill to climb. And that hill, if we do not help the children develop the ability to climb that hill, they will not get grit and resilient. I have learned a lot about experiential learning today. I think I have a definition now in mind, and something like a model which can be put to use, right? A model which a parent, I believe, can use to evaluate if the school their child is going to is doing experiential learning or not. If the parent wants to make a project in their house to help the child overcome this barrier, learn skills, move forward in life, a parent could use. So thank you for that. It's been very helpful. So what do you plan to do with the next few years of your life?
So I think post heritage, I went, like I said, I've gone on a 2-year sabbatical, stayed at home, working out with my daughter. And I realized my gift in life is actually setting up schools. And I also felt there are a lot of unsaid mission which couldn't get completed in the heritage schools. One of it clearly is, I don't think we did deep work around care. I don't think we did deep work about mental resilience. That's been bothering me for some years now. Especially with a lot of my students at Heritage there have been some instances of mental health breakdowns. Like, when I look back, I could have been a better educator who would have had more authentic, deeper conversations with especially my high school students. So that's one piece. That's one reason I thought, okay, I should start another group of schools. But I was also very clear I should get the right partners for it, partners who think
long term,
decades. Yes. So we've been very, very careful about getting the right financial backers. I think I shared with you earlier, it's very rare. I'm sure you know, as an fellow entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur in this country,
it's not easy.
It's not easy. I think we all need a Padma Shri to set up. And
everybody who's tried to set up a company needs one.
And schools are far more complicated because of the regulatory haze around it. Like, I received a lot of big checks from large private equity firms. Some of them were the marqueest ones. So some of these names, if I'd received a call for an interview, let alone a job offer, I would have been elated. So those are the big names which I always grew up in my B school days, etc. But life has been kind. There are people who think in decades, they think long term, who want to view as permanent custodians of an institution. So we've gotten on board. And the third thing which really excited me is to work with colleagues whom I deeply love working with. These are some of the people from Heritage, otherwise, who share a common vision, common purpose. Creating Vasant Valley Schools is also about getting an opportunity to work with some of the finest minds, some of the greatest educators, and some of the greatest learners. They want to learn as a parent. So right now I'm looking forward to setting up Vasant Valley Schools. I think we're starting 2 in Gurgaon now, one for a national curriculum, another for an international curriculum. And hopefully make this model stronger. What I couldn't do and all the mistakes I made in the last 17 odd years, you could address some of those mistakes and hopefully make a better school.
Hmm.
This time, we're also very committed to setting up more work around parents themselves.
Hmm.
To your point, that parents have certain expectations. And I think it's good institutions should always work with the parents as much as they work with children.
Hmm.
Like I said, children are just an excuse for adults to come together and grow.
Hmm.
So that's, I think, next 20 years are exciting. It feels like day zero now.
Hmm.
You asked me what is my age? I feel I'm 25 still.
Hmm.
And probably 20 more years. Let's see how these institutes come along. Yeah.
No, thank you so much. I think the goal that you have about instilling more compassion, more empathy, I think I believe it's a very wise goal. Kids are not thinking of marrying, having kids, having more children. I think it's to do with the compassion that they have not seen in their own childhood. So I think children today need to be more hugged, need to be shown more love, need to be more seen, and like I feel like when I'm talking to you, that is something that will happen in the schools that you want to set up. So all the best.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you
very
so much.
happy to chat today. I learned a lot. Thank you so much for taking out time.